In this lesson, we're going to take a look at the three different forms of how we can represent quadratic functions as equations. We're also going to look at the key points that each of these forms provide so we can graph our function called a parabola. The first form is standard form. In standard form, we have an a, b, and a c variable. In factored form, we have an a, p, and a q value. In vertex form, we have an a, an h, and a k value. Notice all three forms have a leading coefficient of a. Our a value is the same in all three forms. This is called our dilation factor. Now let's take a look specifically at standard form and identify what standard form provides as a key point. Standard form provides us the y-intercept. The y-intercept is when x is 0. So when we plug in 0 for x, we will end up with y equals c. And this is the y-intercept. In factored form, we are provided the x-intercepts. Notice this formula has a subtract, which means the opposite of. The x-intercepts are the p and q value. X-intercepts is when our y's are 0, the value of 0. So again, recall that this formula, factored form, has subtract, meaning the opposite of. In vertex form, we are provided the vertex. The vertex is h, k. Again, in this formula, we have a subtract x minus the h value. So whatever value you see for h, just remember it's going to be the opposite of that sign. The k, it is what it is. Now let's take a look at some examples. So here we have a quadratic function in all three forms. These are all equivalent. So we have standard form, factored form, and vertex form. In standard form, we have our y-intercept of 0, negative 6. We plug in 0 for x, and we're left with y equals negative 6. In vertex form, we are provided our x-intercepts. Remember, not all quadratics pass through the x-axis and may not have any zeros or x-intercepts. So one x-intercept is negative 3, 0, and our larger x-intercept is 1, 0. In vertex form, we have our h value of negative 1 and our k value of negative 8. Now we have 4 points that we can graph this quadratic. 0, negative 6 is the y-intercept. Negative 3, 0 is one of our zeros. And 1, 0. We have a vertex of negative 1, negative 8. We can also identify our AOS, which is the x-coordinate of our vertex. Negative 1, we can sketch in that symmetrical line. And now we have a nice sketch of our parabola, given all three forms of the same function. Now let's talk about converting from one form to the other. Here we have standard form, and let's convert it first to factored form, and then we can convert it to vertex form. So with factor form, we're going to need an a, p, and a q. Our a value is 2. The a value in all three forms is the same. Now we need to factor this function. So let's factor out the GCF of 2. And now we're going to factor this quadratic trinomial, we have a leading coefficient of 1 now, so we can simply factor x squared into x times x, and now we need to factor -3 into two factors that add up to our middle term, our b value of 2. So we could say 3 times -1 gives me -3 when I multiply, and when I add these, I get a sum of 2. So we're going to have x plus 3 and x minus 1. This is factored form. We have an a of 2, we have a p of -3, and we have a q of +1. Now let's convert this to vertex. In vertex form, we need an a, an h, and a k value. Our a value is 2. We're going to go back to standard form. Each time we convert, we need to start with standard form. So with standard form, we need to find the vertex. Remember our vertex formula, the x coordinate, now we're going to use the letter h, is going to be -b divided by 2a. So let's get the h value first. Negative from our formula, our b value is 4, and then 2 times our a value. So our h value is -1. To find the k value, we are going to take this x coordinate and plug it in to the function. So that's going to be the k value, the y coordinate of a vertex. Please use parentheses when plugging in, especially when we have negative values. That's where I see common mistakes. Now we're going to do the order of operations. You could plug this directly into your calculator, again, using parentheses around your -1 value. I'm just going to do this by hand. So I'm going to square my -1. That gives me +1. Times 2 is 2. 4 times -1 is -4. And then we have our -6. So 2 minus -10 is going to give us a k value of -8. Now we can write our function in vertex form. F of x equals, my a value is 2, x minus -1 becomes x plus 1, quantity squared, minus 8. And now we have vertex form. So now we have learned how to go from standard to factored and standard to vertex.